The man in black fled across the desert, and the YouTuber with blue hair made a video about it. Here are 19 reasons to read The Gunslinger. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Dave Musson at Dave Musson on Instagram, and I'm here to continue my journey through Stephen King's bibliography, giving you 19 reasons to read each book. Why 19? Because Stephen King. If you like the sound of that, do consider subscribing so you don't miss any future videos, and feel free to check out all the other stuff on my channel as well. So we're still in 1982 in King's timeline, and this video is covering a book that was the start of what would become an epic quest. Yep, it's our first look into the world of the Dark Tower, arguably King's defining work. So grab your gunner and don't forget the face of your father, because here are 19 reasons to read The Gunslinger. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. That's the first line of this book, and it's possibly the best first line Stephen King has ever written. It's just about perfect, and it has you hooked from the very start. Now, not only that, this book is also the first book in the Dark Tower series, which for many King readers is reason alone to read it. So it has its own reason here. Now, this novel has iconic status within the King community, but what's perhaps slightly less well known is that actually it was a fix-up novel. So The Gunslinger is the smooshing together of 5 previously published stories that came out between 1978 and 1981, which is probably why this book is pretty episodic. So there are also 2 versions of The Gunslinger. There's the original one, which collates those 5 stories and first came out in 1982 and was eventually given a trade paperback publication in 1988. And then there's the revised version. And then there's the revised version. Yeah, sorry, movie tie-in, bad choice there. So when King was getting set to finish his quest to the Dark Tower, he went back to the Gunslinger and did lots of tweaking just to make sure that everything synced together and worked nicely as one whole piece. So actually, the revised one, and do get yourself a better cover than I've got, is probably now the definitive edition of the Gunslinger. So the book was inspired by the 1855 Robert Browning poem Childe Roland to Dark Tower Came, which King read at university. He decided he wanted to write this epic long novel that sort of captured the vibe of the poem, and he set about starting The Gunslinger. He actually started writing it on a pad of bright green paper that he found in the University of Maine library, and he started writing it in 1970. That's right, he started it in 1970, which means it took him 12 years to finish this. For comparison, in the next 22 years, he would write another 6 Dark Tower books. Okay, here's a huge reason to read The Gunslinger. The Gunslinger himself. This book is our introduction to Roland Deschain, the last gunslinger of Gilead, descendant of the line of Eld, an all-round hero of the series. He's got piercing blue eyes, he's older than you could ever imagine, and he takes no shit. You can't really read King without hanging out with this guy. It's also important to know a bit about Roland's world, which is like ours, but different. Roland's world has moved on. Essentially, it's falling apart. But it has a bunch of things that you or I would recognise. Hamburgers, for instance, as well as beer, and songs like Hey Jude, overrated, and Beans, Beans, the Musical Fruit, banger. The other character of note here, as you may have guessed from the opening line, is the man in black. Now, he is a man of many names. He's Walter O'Dim, he's Martin Broadcloak, and, of course, he's Randall Flagg. Yep, it's the big bad man of the King universe, and he's right here in this book. While we're talking important characters, there's another one we have to mention. He doesn't get a say in the first sentence, but he is vital, and he really, really is one you need to know about. I'm talking, of course, about Zoltan the Crow. He eats the eyes of Roland's dead mule, and he's got a fucking cool name that reminds me of a classic early noughts movie. Zoltan. Oh, Jake. Yeah, we should probably mention Jake as well. So Jake Chambers is a vital character to the whole Dark Tower series, and we meet him first in The Gunslinger. So Jake is a boy from our world, but Roland finds him in his. How did Jake get there? Well, he died. He He died in our world and woke up in Midworld, Roland's world. Spoiler alert for the rest of the series, that isn't the first time that Jake dies. The iconic moment of this book is between Roland and Jake when they're travelling under the mountains on an old handcar and they've just escaped the slow mutants. Just before they escape the mountains, the track they're travelling on starts to break and Roland is left with an agonizing choice. Save Jake, essentially his new son, or let Jake fall to his death and catch up with the man in black and continue his quest to the tower. It's agonizing for Roland. Who does he choose? The tower or this boy? Yeah, he chooses the tower. Fuck you, Jake. There are other worlds than these. Maybe I'll catch you in one. Oh right, yeah, there isn't just one famous line in this book. So when Jake's about to drop into the abyss and he says, "Go then, there are other worlds than these," that's right up there in King's work. It's almost as iconic as the book's opening. Good work, Steve. Despite its slight length, we learn an awful lot about Roland's youth in this book. We find out about his gunslinger training, his early test of manhood, how the man in black seduced his mother, and how Roland was able to get the better of his teacher through the clever use of the hawk called David. Good name, by the way. It's fantasy galore, and it's really well done. So before Roland lets Jake drop to his death, he does actually save the boy from an oracle. So this oracle wanted to, well, have sex with Jake. Roland, being the hero he is, steps in and fucks the oracle in his place. Now this is an act that is important to remember as we progress through the series, so don't forget it. Also, quite how you have sex with an oracle, I'm not entirely sure, but hey ho. When Roland finally catches up to the man in black, they have themselves a palaver. So Walter, Martin, Flag, whoever the fuck he is, reads Roland's future using a deck of tarot cards, and there's a bunch of cards that he pulls out that we will revisit later in the series, namely the Prisoner, the Lady of the Shadows, and the Tower itself. Oh, and Death, of course. But not for you, Gunslinger. The man in black also tells Roland to give up on his journey to the tower, which Roland refuses to do. So the man in black sends him to sleep. He wakes up 10 years later, surrounded by a bunch of bones. Now, in the original, it's pretty clear that these bones are Walter's, but in the revised edition, that's a lot less clear-cut. Either way, it works as an ending and it leaves you ready for book 2. Lastly, I just wanted to return to this being the opening book of the Dark Tower series, and the fact that that alone can really raise people's expectations of the Gunslinger. And quite often I've seen people read this and then feel a bit, well, deflated afterwards almost. Not because it's a bad book, far from it, but because the hype is so much that inevitably you're never going to quite meet that. And the rest of the series, bar for maybe one or two of them, is generally stronger than this book. But if you go into the Gunslinger full of hype and come out of it feeling slightly less enthused, don't worry, I felt exactly the same the first time I read the book. My advice to you would be to jump right into the Drawing of the Three and read the first 2 books back to back. By the time you get to the end of that duo, you will be hungry to finish the rest of the series. Unless of course you're doing a chronological read like I am, in which case your brain won't let you, no matter how much you want. It's great. Okay, there you go, 19 reasons to read The Gunslinger. Do let me know what you think of the video and of the book in the comments below. While I'm here plugging stuff, feel free to come and say hi to me on Instagram where I'm at Dave Musson, and also why not check out my band Chapter 19. We have a song called Stephen, it's about Stephen King, and it's been playing in the background to this video, and contrary to what a lot of the comments on my YouTube channel says, it's actually really good, so go and check it out. Fuck you haters. Thanks as always for stopping by, I'll catch you soon.